The Dolphins went 5-11 last season, but made some splashes in the offseason. You see what I did there? Okay, starting quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Backup, Tua Tagovailoa. Fitzy, I love him. He's the best quarterback ever. He's so fun to watch. I mean, you just can't get a more interesting player, to be completely honest. And I'm being serious now. He actually is a very fun player to watch, but you get a little variety with him. I think this team will actually be more successful if they just let Tua sit on the bench for a season. And if Fitzpatrick played the whole year, I think they'd actually probably do better record wise. But I don't know if they're looking at the playoffs either way. So I, it's a tough call. But you look at what happened with Patrick Mahomes here. He sat a year and then came out and lit the league on fire. Behind an older quarterback in Alex Smith. So, I mean, potentially, I think it's maybe a good idea just to keep Fitzy in for this season, get a better record, and then let Tua take over in a year or two. I don't see why that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I think it's a good call, actually. I think Fitzy should try to stay the starting quarterback as long as he can until he has one of those 5 interception games, and we'll see what sort of decision Brian Flores makes there. Running backs, Jordan Howard and Matt Breida acquired in the offseason. Kind of two very different type of runners. I think of Jordan Howard more as like a I was going to say uphill, but downhill runner. That's what I meant to say. More of a power back, really strong guy. Matt Breida, kind of think of him more for his speed, but honestly, I can't say that I've watched a ton of him, so I don't really know. I'm feeling a little different, though. I like that 1-2 punch in addition. These receivers they've got on the team, Devontae Parker and Preston Williams, both looked really good. I think Preston Williams may have gotten hurt early in the season last year, but he's back and 100%, and I think those are two good options on the outside. Then you've got Jakeem Grant, probably playing in the slot, who's really, really talented, or just fast is what I meant to say. It's just lightning quick, and anyone with that sort of speed can always be a weapon in some way or another. He returned a kickoff for a touchdown against the Bills last season. Then they got 2 wide receivers to mention. Allen Hurns and Albert Wilson are both out as of now, but they could be potential weapons in the future too. They're 2 names that people know, and they could be good. Mike Gesicki, the tight end. I've seen a lot of impressive plays from him in the past, and I think he's a really good tight end. It's just the question of how often they get him involved, and how their offense operates overall. If this offense is able to move the ball this season, then I think Mike Gesicki could be in for a good year. If the offense generally struggles, I think Gesicki may not be in for as good of a year. But really what it's going to come down to is it's going to come down to this offensive line of Austin Jackson, Eric Flowers, Ted Karras, Solomon Kindley, and Jesse Davis, who are the starters across the offensive line. Not really any names there that you're in love with, but I think they made a few additions in this offseason. These are not all the same starters from last season that they had, and the line was not very good last season. So if this line improves, this could help this offense tremendously, because I honestly think this offense may have more talent on it than, especially if in a year or two you get Tua starting and he starts playing well. This offense, just with what it has as of now, actually looks like it's in a pretty good position if the offensive line can start playing a little better. Then on the defensive side of the ball, they've got Christian Wilkins at one defensive end, Emmanuel Ogbah at the other, Devon Godshaw at defensive tackle. Then as linebackers, Shaq Lawson, Landon Roberts, and Jerome Baker and Kyle Van Noy on the inside. Xavier Howard is the starting corner on one side with Byron Jones opposite him. Wow, that's an elite tandem with the rookie. Oh, geez, I got to say his name. Noah Igbenogene. That's wrong. If I don't hear it recently, I can't say it correctly, but people know who I'm talking about. The starting safeties are Eric Rowe and Bobby McCain. Also, they've got Nick Needham in the secondary, and they got a guy in the offseason who I heard was a pretty solid special teamer from the Bengals, and Clayton Fitzgerald. Also, another name that I probably can't pronounce for my life. And then they've got the tandem of Jason Sanders and Matt Hawk on special teams, hooked up for a touchdown pass last season. So really, this defense, actually, just looking at the starters, I mean, you've even got guys I didn't mention that are backups like Kamu Grugier Hill at all linebacker spots. I think they filled a lot of holes here. Landon Roberts was the guy who played offense for the Patriots sometimes last year as a linebacker. And then Jerome Baker, obviously a player that's been there a little while now. Kyle Van Noy, the guy for the Patriots last year that seemingly did so much. And then Shaq Lawson comes from the Bills, who was a pretty solid player. I think on this defense, the front seven looks solid. I don't think there's any holes here at all, which is different from the teams I feel like I've looked at recently. I don't see a hole there. I actually think this defense is really that defense of those starters are pretty good, to be honest. It's just that something about putting it all together seems a little weird, because this roster actually, now that I'm just taking a look at it, looks pretty good. You could get a lot of boomer bust here with this offensive line, like I already said. And then on the defensive side of the ball, if they can actually put it together, they could be pretty effective in stopping teams. They added a ton of guys here. It's just amazing the difference a year can make. But we saw last year with the Browns adding, just having insane talent. It didn't necessarily mean anything. So we'll have to see if the defense can come together with all the new pieces. They're all upgrades from who they had before, but they're fresh. So you're gonna have to worry about how well they're doing, just on like a scheme basis, basically. So let's talk about who the Dolphins play and how they match up against them. Buffalo, New England, and New York are the divisional opponents, the Jets. I think actually I want to say that the Dolphins could split the division, go 3-3 inside of it. I think they lose twice to the Bills, but against New England and the Jets, I think they could pick up 3 wins. I don't know if they've always played New England well, and I think without Brady, that makes it even tougher on New England. And I'll talk about that more when I do New England's video in a little bit. But I think the scheme isn't going to change as much for New England as people think it may. And then the other thing is, I don't think Cam Newton will be as disciplined in that scheme. So I think that'll hurt the Patriots just ever so slightly on the offensive side of the ball, but then you're also missing a lot of pieces on defense. So I think the Dolphins could definitely go 3-3 inside of the division. And then you got to talk about the teams that they're going to play at home. They got at home outside of the division this season. They got Cincinnati, Kansas City. Both the LA teams are coming to Miami, and Seattle. The Seahawks, Rams, and Chiefs, all probably teams that are a little more put together than Miami. They with the roster they have, though, they could potentially figure out a way to steal a game there. But I generally want to give those games to those teams that I think are pretty above the Miami's talent, just in the regard of they have some superstars, and Miami really doesn't have any guys that jump off the paper as superstars, except for maybe in the secondary at the cornerback spot. But even then, that's not gonna like help extremely. So I think they lose to Kansas City, the Rams, and the Seahawks. But on the other hand, I'm looking at this Chargers game. I'm looking at this Bengals game. I think they're both very winnable games for Miami at home. So if we give them those 2 games and they went 3-3 inside of the division, they're already at that 5-win total for what they were at last season. So we're pretty close to an improvement, and I think we may be able to get there because on the road they go to Jacksonville, Denver, Las Vegas, Arizona, and San Fran. Arizona, much improved. I think I've said that 100 times now every time I've talked about the Cardinals. But I think the Cardinals beat the Dolphins at home. I think the Broncos are going to be improved too. I think they beat them at home. I think San Fran's still a great team. I think San Fran will beat the Dolphins at home. But the Raiders and the Jaguars. The Jaguars are a terrible football team. The Jaguars are not even close to as talented as the Dolphins are. Just looking at comparing rosters. I mean, I feel like every guy I talked about in the Jaguars video that was even half decent literally has gotten shipped out in the past 2 weeks. So the Jaguars literally have no talent except for maybe Gardner Minshew. So I think I'm pretty safely going to bet that Miami will beat the Jaguars, and then I think they'll take the game from the Raiders too, because I don't think the Raiders are that great of a team. The Raiders are the home team in that one, but I just like the balance of this Miami team for some reason, and I feel like they could beat them. So that will put the record prediction at 7-9 for the Dolphins, but I mean, I could see them stealing 2 more games, especially if the way I've predicted one of these other teams they're competing against is kind of completely inaccurate, and one of these teams that I'm calling good actually ends up being really bad. I could see these guys getting up to 9 wins. 8-8 is definitely a possibility as well, but I think we're looking at improvement from the last year, and I think this Miami team is probably on a really solid uptrend right now. But for now, I'm going to sit them at a 7-9 record for my prediction, and yeah.
So, if you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching.
2020 president candidate.